From the book of Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods, and you do not worship the golden statue that I have set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, drum, and entire musical ensemble, to fall down and worship the statue I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God that will deliver you out of my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to present a defense to you on this matter. If our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire and out of your hand, O king, let him deliver us. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, and we will not worship the golden statue that you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was so filled with rage against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that his face was distorted. He ordered the furnace heated up 7 times more than was customary, and ordered some of the strongest guards in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to throw them into the furnace of blazing fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up quickly. He said to his counselors, "Was there not 3 men that we threw bound into the fire?" They answered the king, "True, O king." He replied, "But I see 4 men unbound walking in the middle of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the 4th has the appearance of a god." Nebuchadnezzar said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him. They disobeyed the king's command and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own God." Whenever an excerpt from the Old Testament, like this one, from the book of Daniel, is read, I always feel the need to be reminded of the story so far. The first 6 chapters from the book of Daniel explore the lives of a small group of friends taken by force from Jerusalem to Babylon. The setting for these stories is exile. 4 young Hebrews are pitted against the nation-crushing might of the Babylonian Empire, the most powerful political force in the known world of their day. Although the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against them, in the hostile culture to which they are deported, they not only keep the faith, but influence many others in Babylon. I feel the question posed by this account is how is our faith when the heat is on? Are we stretched by adversity? or broken by it. In our reading today, Daniel takes a back seat while his three friends take centre stage. As is typical of shows of loyalty in totalitarian states, when commanded by a cacophony of musical instruments, everyone had to bow down to King Nebuchadnezzar's vain, self-glorifying and grotesque idol. Reputed to be made of gold, 90 feet high and 9 feet wide. Being seen to be compliant was everything. There was no room for dissent. The young men have enough strength and courage to refuse to worship and are rewarded for their courage by being sentenced to death. They respond with indomitable courage and offer a unique, historic and groundbreaking response. Despite not knowing if or how God would act, they trusted themselves to him anyway and asserted they would not worship the statue. Our God may well choose to rescue us, they tell the king, but even if he doesn't, we will not bow down to idols. Even if God does nothing to rescue his servants, he is still God and deserving of worship. The entire paradox of faith is encapsulated in this speech. The three young Hebrews walk the tightrope of faith. They are open to God's miracle if it should come, as in fact it does, but they are open too to face death if God wills it. For such people, there is no threat so terrible that faith will be lost. Their faith is in the character of God, not in the circumstances that befall them. They are a transforming influence on whatever culture they are part of, because nothing that happens can change their conviction about who God is and how much he loves them. In the first part of their speech, we see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego have faith for a miracle, and this is impressive. But then we see that they also have faith of a deeper kind that refuses to be shaken by unanswered prayer, and this is even more inspiring. Now imagine for a moment that your worst fears come true and the thing you most dread happens to you. Ask yourself, does this change who God is? Does it make him love me less? The exiles have lost their homeland and temple. The city of God may be in ruins, but the Lord is still God. And in 2023, right now, each day, throughout the world, people struggle to be faithful under terrible persecution. Remember them in your prayers. The king has clearly lost face when the three survive the flames, so how to respond to the stunned crowd of dignitaries? He blesses the deliverance that the friends God has provided and praise their faithfulness when facing death. Then he offers protection to the three men and, as if he could, to their God, albeit alongside all his other deities. And we hear in another account of the three young men, this time in the Apocrypha, that they sang hymns in the furnace and on release blessed God. Their song is the basis of the ancient Christian hymn, the Benedicite, or Benedictus as some call it, which the Book of Common Prayer sets for Matins. Their example lives on in the Church's memory. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people, and hath raised up a mighty salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he spake by the mouth of his holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from the hands of all that hate us, that we, being delivered out of the hands of our enemies, might serve him without fear, in holiness and righteousness before him all the days of our life.